Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Shri Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Rupa Shri Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopalavanta Dasaraguna Shri Jiva Gopalavanta Dasaraguna Ade Hadaye Nama Krishna Yadavaya Nama Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govindara Shimadhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhattaraguna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare. Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gaur Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Shri Harinam Sankirtana ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande. Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our second session of Yoga, the Art of Play. Thank you all for coming. I was a little bit expecting that maybe not many of you would come back because you would think, okay, we got the idea of what he's doing, and it looks like he might be wanting us to do some work or play. And, we just want to listen. We don't want to do anything. So I'm happy you're back, and let's see how things progress today. As I think I said yesterday, this all, for me, is very much experimental and not nearly as well organized as a lecture by Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj. But perhaps, yeah, it is what it is. So I'm also wanting to appeal for your help, for your participation, and feel free to, yes, express, say things that come to your mind. And I think we can also keep this open-ended in the sense that, okay, I may be speaking sometimes. Feel free to interrupt. with a comment, with a question, with whatever, however the Spirit moves you, as I guess the Christians say. Okay, what did we do yesterday? What did we talk about? We talked about recreation, and I suggested that if we think about the word recreate as a recreation, this may help us appreciate something about what devotional drama is. It is a recreation, a reenactment of the pastimes of the Lord and His devotees. Srila Prabhupada once referred to the Srimad Bhagavatam. He kind of gave a definition of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is, he said, the beautiful story of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is what Srimad Bhagavatam is. And one time a lady asked him, I think it was in Los Angeles, 1969, after he had spoken about the 6 Goswamis in his lecture, he invited questions, and a lady didn't ask anything about the 6 Goswamis. She said, "What about Joan of Arc?" What about Joan of Arc? Joan of Arc was a French saint of the, 15th century perhaps? 14th, 15th century. She was martyred, I believe. And so Prabhupada was like, yes, what about her? Well, she was this. Yes, Prabhupada said, if it is related to the Lord, then yes, Joan of Arc, she is also part of Srimad Bhagavatam. And from that perspective, we might also want to appreciate Chaitanya Charitamrita as a kind of extension of, I like to think of it as an encore. You know the word encore? I think in German they say bis, bis. Means come back on the stage, do something more, do it again. Huh? What do you say? Suka? Zugabe. Zugabe, genau. Yeah, Zugabe, Zugabe, Zugabe. So I like to think of Chaitanya Charitamrita as a Zugabe, as an encore of the Srimad Bhagavatam. All of the actors, Krishna and his associates, they come back, but they've all changed their costumes. They've all changed their costumes and they've changed their mood. In a sense, but of course, for what purpose? There is a very special purpose to reenact and at the same time expand the pastimes of the Lord in a wonderful way, which is inviting all of us to participate in the pastimes. And I think that's another, we may want to say, general theme or a general point. Yesterday we did as our little so-called icebreaker, speaking to each other about how we perhaps first met Hare Krishna. And one way to think about this is how how did I begin to become part of this story, the beautiful story of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? How is it that I began to make this, the Lord's story, make it my story? We talked about this a little, that we all like to tell our story. And what are we learning in devotional life? We're learning, we want to become adept at telling Krishna's story, isn't it? Something I like to do, sometimes I invite devotees, I'll project some photo of a painting from one of our books, Srila Prabhupada's books, and I suggest, how would you explain this painting to someone who has absolutely no idea? You are a tour guide in a museum, and some, let's say, young people have come in, and you are their guide, and now you have to explain to them what's going on in this painting. It might be a painting of, okay, now we can use our imagination, our memories. It might be a painting of Krishna surrounded by the cowherd boys, and they're all having lunch in the forest. One of my favorites. What's this about? You could think about how you would explain that. So the point is, we are learning how to tell the story of the Supreme Lord. And of course, there's unlimited ways in which we can do that. And part of what we can do is tell our own stories in relation to Krishna's story, and we may see how they come together. And as we become more and more absorbed in remembering Krishna, now I'm trying to make a connection to the idea of remembering Krishna's pastimes. So remembering a particular pastime, one may gradually have a thought that, oh, there's a gap here in the story. Oh, that's where I fit. That's my role. And then you're inside. Then you're Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kavunai. Then there you are, you've arrived. Yeah. So recreation and reenactment, and we talked also about being already familiar with the story and still wanting to see it again. The example, what was the example I gave? Yes, Ramalila in Ramnagar. All over India they're performing, but the famous one I know of is in Ramnagar, across from Varanasi. Everybody knows this story. But possibly another example of this is from a later time and with a new technology, namely television. So in, I believe it was 1989, there was a television series of Ramayana that was performed. Some of you may know the director, the name I forget. In any case, Ramananda Sagar. Thank you. Yes, it was broadcast. I think it was every Sunday morning, all over India, Doordarshan, and it was hugely popular. They later people wrote about it, and they said the whole country shut down when everyone would see the Ramayana. In those days, still many villages had very few television sets. Maybe there was only one television set in the whole village, so they would bring it out into the open space outdoors. Maybe they had a long extension cord, and everyone would gather around, and they would put garlands on the TV set. Yeah. And I read that and again, everybody knew the story, but they wanted to see it again. And not only that, but as it was approaching what everyone knew was going to be the end of the story, devotees, the people became anxious that this is coming to an end. What to do? So they were writing to Ramanand Sagar, please, can you make it go longer? Can you extend it somehow? So that's what he did. He kind of slowed down the story. So, and this brings us back to the topic of rasa, that kavya is very much about evoking rasa. It's not so much about the action or the plot. The plot will be there, but it's all about the rasa. And if the rasa can be elaborated and, sort of massaged and more evoked without much of anything happening, great. This is the idea. Speaking of kavya, there's a nice verse. Vedam Puranam Kavyam Cha Priya Priyeva Cha Bodhayanti Ti Hi Prahus, and then the last line. I don't have this fresh memory that our Keshava Maharaj has. But the first two lines, Vedam Puranam Kavyam Cha, that the Vedas, the Puranas, and Kavya, they teach us. How do they teach us? Prabhu, like a master, the Veda, like a friend, Mitra, the Puranas, and Kavyam, Priya, like a beloved. So we're getting lessons from different persons in the course of our lives. And this is saying that kavya in particular is, how is it teaching? It's teaching in the sweetest way. It's not like the Veda, which is, especially the Dharma Shastra, is sort of saying, this is how it is, just surrender. The Puranas are more like a friend, they're more friendly teaching. But kavya is it's more friendly, it's more open. But the purpose of all of them is elevation. It is to bring illumination to the audience. It's said in the Bharata Natya Shastra, which is considered very foundational to this sort of classical tradition of drama in India. It's said that everyone who comes to drama, whatever it is they're lacking, will be fulfilled. Someone who is coming to the drama feeling grief or sorrow will feel peaceful. Someone who is coming looking, feeling a lack of being acknowledged, not famous enough. They will be fulfilled in their desire. Everyone will be fulfilled in their desire. But the actual purpose is the transcendental elevation of everyone, bringing everyone to the higher purpose of life. Should we do a little icebreaker? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. All right, let's see. Well, what I was thinking we could try to do now is, let me ask, who is here today who was not here yesterday? Oh, quite several of you. Okay, that's all right. What we did yesterday is we shared our stories with one other devotee, and we suggested someone perhaps not at all, so getting to know someone. We shared our story, how we first met Hare Krishnas, how we first came in contact. Little story like that. And what I saw, is a lot of very animated discussion that went on. Like everyone has a story, and furthermore, I noticed a lot of hand motion and expressions, right? So for those of you who were not here yesterday, my suggestion is you don't have to use hand motions if you don't want, but if you can find one other who has not been here, maybe raise your hands again. You were not here, and look and see someone else who was not here. Find one other person, and then you can meet and just briefly share this story with each other. For the rest of you, we're going to take the next step. The next step is same story, but now you can discuss with each other how you might turn your story into some sort of performance, some sort of enactment, or shall we say reenactment, a recreation of that event or that series of events that led to an event. And I want to give you some little tips or suggestions for you to think about what you might do as a kind of device to make this happen. One is you can, and we're just doing this sort of in speaking with each other. Maybe later you want to write it. So one thing you may think of is dividing the program, the story, such that there's a narrator, and there are actors. There may be only one actor. It may be only yourself as the actor, but there's a narrator who is maybe telling some of the background, and then you are acting what is the more dramatic, shall we say, moments. That's one possibility, a narrator. This can be expanded in all sorts of ways, the idea of a narrator. In ancient Greece, the Greek theater, they had a chorus. Ein Chor. Die hatten ein Chor. Yeah. So, the Greek chorus, and the Greek chorus's job was to sort of add some commentary to what was happening in the story. they would be standing on the side and they would, sort of make some comment about what was happening. They also had a function of sort of drawing the audience into the drama. And there's a way that that's done in the Sanskrit drama as well. I think we'll talk about that maybe tomorrow. They can also function to express inner thoughts of the players, of the performers. But this can also be done in another way, and that is the actor sort of turns to the audience and speaks a monologue, which is expressing inner thoughts. You're all looking at me like, huh? That's exactly what you were thinking. Yeah, it's a monologue, or fancy word, soliloquy. A soliloquy is sort of a longer monologue, perhaps. I think I may give some example of this, but I think first we should just try it. The chorus can also sometimes function in such a way as to give a chance for the actors to go off stage. So the chorus is, I don't know, they were singing, they were chanting something, and the actors could go off, and then they would come back on. Anyway, those are some little thoughts about chorus. You don't have to add a chorus to your... But see if you can just chat with each other. We're not trying to accomplish much of anything now. But if you can find your story partner from yesterday, hopefully some of them are there. If not, find others amongst yourselves, and let's see what comes out of this, shall we? For just a few minutes. Okay, please. Oh, cool. Maybe you can do a pan with the camera and show everyone
if they are talking.
Yeah, just a quick
We
pan.
have one cam there.
Oh, you have.
Which is showing like all of
okay.
them.
Okay, good.
Is this okay?
Yeah, that's. I didn't know you have a camera there.
Yeah, that's why we had to like move the screen a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can see one leg of the tripod.
Yeah. Oh, now I see. This is not in the way now? It's not in the way now? Okay. Okay.
Celia for the rehearsal.
Uh-oh.
Just come down and recall the camera with your blessings. At the end, when we do it on Friday, I would ask you and Satyanand Maharaj to say a few words. And for me, I would be particularly interested to see how much Vedic or non-Vedic the drama is from the performance. Not, of course, from the contents. It should be Vedic, because I think you look through the lenses of Shastra, Chakshu, or Vedic drama. Maybe certain things are a bit similar, maybe not. But just, I would be interested.
Okay.
Honest feedback.
All right. Are you familiar with Mac at all?
iPhones more, and maybe I can still help you.
Well, since being connected, plugged in here,
Yeah.
I don't know, my icons for different programs disappears, and I don't know how to get somewhere else.
Aren't they normally down there? If you
Well, I usually have it here.
in there. Krishna Premarupa, he's expert. I will ask him here. He also has a Mac.
Okay.
Just a curious question. You mentioned that yesterday they were discussing how they, join Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
What's the discussion now?
Now the discussion is how would I dramatize my story?
Because they seem to be very lively discussions.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
We can make next year a drama out of that. Dramatic.
Yeah.
Once Satyananda Swami asked in a lecture in Zurich why did we join, and devotee said because of philosophy, prasadam, deities,
Yeah.
and he was not happy. Then Harinam raised his hand, he said, because I wanted to enjoy more. And he said, yes.
I'm not sure whether I'm the right person.
Well, you use a Mac?
Yes, but that's Word.
Yeah, and I want to do I want to put something else. I have Chrome, and it's open, but I don't know where it is. I don't know how to get to it now. I can close this, of course. Yeah, I did that. I just don't know. Oh, maybe this is how to do it. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just, this will be okay. I can do that. Okay, so that's this one. Thank you. Okay. Let me turn this on now. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. I see again quite some lively discussions. I didn't see quite so much gesturing this time. I don't know, maybe because you're thinking more, that's okay. Would anyone like to share with us just a little picture of an idea that you came up with from your discussion, how you would dramatize your story? Anyone? Don't all speak at once, please. David Darshan is volunteering you. Microphones.
Yeah, it would not be maybe we could do it very excitingly, but for me it was like that I was with a partner at that time, and an old friend of hers just visited us one day out of the blue, and he was telling about Krishna consciousness, and I was thinking he's a completely crazy guy. And my girlfriend, she thought, yeah, let's visit the temple, and I told them, you go, I'm not interested. So I was very skeptical and thought they're just, I don't know. But I told them, please bring me back a book. I want the Bhagavad Gita. So they brought back a book, and when I opened the book, I was convinced. So, but I was for some time, I was convinced about the philosophy, but not about the devotees. So I was torn back and forth, and one could definitely make a nice drama about like topics, how that person comes in and tells that he has found the truth, and I was also searching, but I was definitely not expecting such narrations and such. So it was quite. We were quite discussing quite lively.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice, thank you. One suggestion, and this is a general thing, is that you can be a little creative, and so in this case, you might create some. You have your dialogue with the so quote unquote crazy guest, and in your dialogue, sometimes you have what's called an aside, which means you express to the audience something that you're thinking. You know, you turn to the audience and you say, oh my God, this guy is completely mad, you know, or something like that. And then the crazy, so-called crazy person could also be speaking some asides, in which, for example, what comes to my mind is, he probably thinks I'm crazy. You know? So like that you can develop. You could have another scene where he's considering how he can attract you, you know, maybe before or after. Like that you can embellish, you know the word embellish? You can add something which is maybe not in the original script that is in your story. And another thing I suggest you could do, I think it's fair game, to bring Krishna into the story. That Krishna is making a plan, and he's watching you, and he's thinking, uh-oh, now he thinks he's crazy. What am I going to do about that? You see what I'm saying? He's trying to coordinate things, you know, and because you have your independence, your freedom, he doesn't want to interfere with that, so he's thinking, what to do now? That sort of thing. So that can make it interesting, fun. Anyone else? Yes, Martina.
I'll try my best.
Please.
We have two stories.
The first is from Damodar Priya.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell that? I might.
Don't be shy. This is
Also,
not.
it's a very, very, very nice story.
This is not the place.
Damodar
to be
Priya
shy.
left her old life and go through the world to find the absolute truth. And it's a very long story, and we thought that it will be good to be a serie, like a serie, because it's like the film Rocky. So you go to the big fight, but everything, the training before and what happened before, it is most interesting. And so it's a lot of little stories.
You mean like boxing fight?
Yeah, but it's not a boxing fight. But the highlight, the highlight is in the film Rocky, the fight, and the highlight here is to come to India to find the absolute truth. But the way before. The way, the steps before this, there are little small stories. Also a lot
there's
of
many
small,
little stories.
many stories, and they are very funny, I think, because buying shoes, the right shoes, or something like mosquito nets, and
all
so
the
we think
things one does.
And the
nice.
Other story is it's my story because I get a book in Berlin when I was 20 years or something like that. And so it was Die Schönheit des Selbst, also from Prabhupada. And I tried to read it, but it was not the time for me to read this book. And I put it in my regal, and then often I take old books away, but this book I cannot leave, and it needs 20 years or more that I find out that the book is from Prabhupada when I join to the temple. And so the idea was to tell the story in the perspective of the book.
The book is watching. It's sitting
the book
there
is telling
on
the story.
Shelf, waiting 20 years. Right? Saying, when is she going to take me off the shelf? Right? Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Yeah. To the series, you can think of that also as there's a way of performing which is kind of a cross between dance and acting, in which all the movements are stylized, and they may involve freeze acting, where you come to a very critical moment in the story and everyone freezes. There is a tradition in India called Jhanki, not junkie, Jhanki. Where it's there's a French term for it also. What is it? Tableau vivant. So it's a display. It's like a living painting. The performers get in their positions and have their costumes and freeze, and people come and they see it's darshan. There's a tradition of this in India. I haven't seen it in India. I've heard about it. I've read about it. That's the thing. You can also think in terms now, what is it called? TikTok? Which is very short videos, right? So you could think of a TikTok series. You know, just quick with some fast-moving. You can think about what would be the audio, because they say in film, what is it? 70% of film is the sound. You have to have first-class sound if you want to have a successful film. Anyway, so you can be thinking of what kind of music, you know, going in the background. A lot of things you can do. Yes. Someone else want to share? Yes, Deva Shiranik.
This drama begins, the stage is dark, and two kids, they are thrown out of a tunnel and they end up in a dark stage. And a conversation begins between the two kids, and as the light comes on, we see it's a very dark forest kind of an environment. But we can't quite see because it's still quite dark, but just a dim light. And the conversation begins like this, that there is this beautiful friend of this other kid, and the friend says that, I think you should get out of this. And then the little boy says, or the little girl, she says that, no, I heard what goes on outside of the jungle in the city, so I don't want to. And then the friend says, okay, why not go back to where you came from? And this little girl says, no, let me show you. And then they leave the stage. And then the next scene occurs. And this girl then shows her friend, and there are many other actors involved. She shows her friend how much suffering and pain she had in her past life. And then several scenes go on. And then we again brought back to the main scene, back to the dark forest area. And then the best friend of this girl convinces that if you get out of this forest, as a friend, I can do you a favor, that I'll spread the word around and you will have a nice start. And then the friend says, and the girl says, do you promise me that you will always be with me? And the best friend says that I'm your best friend, I shall never leave you. And then the scene closes, and when the curtain opens, then there's a birth of a girl child. And then the setting is that the girl child goes to the grandmother who is a devotee, etc., etc. So this is just a story of how I came in touch with Krishna consciousness, because I had the good fortune that I was born into a Krishna conscious family.
Yeah.
But we discussed how this could be related, how we have this whole past life, and when we are in the womb, we remember the dark side of our past life. And the soul also doesn't want to go out, because through the womb you hear what goes on outside. And the best friend is the Paramatma, who's always there. Yeah.
Oh, very nice. Nice, thank you. This reminds me of another, you might want to call it technique, and that is to build a story around a single verse from Shastra. We actually saw this in The Boatman and the Professor. There was a single verse spoken or read rather ironically by the professor, right? The professor's on the boat, he pulls out of his bag, how did I get this book? Bhagavad. Oh yeah, it was in the New York airport. Oh, she insisted, all right, I took it. Oh, what is this? Shinvatan Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, right? And then he reads the translation. So that verse has been embedded, you can say, in a whole story. In this case, one might take the Upanishadic verse, the original form of it is in Rig Veda, of the two birds in the tree. So that could be, the whole story could be a way of bringing out the significance of that verse. You see what I'm saying? A lot of things like that can be done. Just a suggestion. Good. Anyone else with a burning desire to share? Yes, Anandita Rama.
It's very short story. It was a time when my material life was broken in many small classes.
Fragments.
Yes, yes. And I was looking for answers. Why is it so? And so I find a class about 54 kinds of or arts of proud.
54 arts?
54 Arten des Stolzes.
54 ways of being proud?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know that it was from Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th class.
Uh-huh.
But when I heard this class first time, so my mind was so, oh, this fits to this person, this next one is to this person.
Yes.
So for all, I found one person in my relationship who fit inside. And then I think Krishna was laughing about me because he wanted to show me my own myself. And so next day when I wanted to hear this class again, I was scared that all kinds of this proud is fit to me.
Yes.
And so that began my life. How can I change it?
Right. Okay. That's nice. So okay, we could talk about how that might be dramatized. What comes to my mind now, just off the top of my head, you could be a little bit. You could have something slightly surreal happen on the stage. You know this term, surrealism? What comes to my mind is every now and then someone just walks from stage left to stage right, holding a mirror. Just walks on the stage with a mirror and walks off the stage with the mirror. So, what was that about? And then he or she comes back again, holding a mirror. All right, what's with the mirror, And then maybe at some point he just stands there with the mirror, facing the audience, and you're facing away from the mirror toward the audience, and then at one point you look in the mirror, something like that, You can be a little creative. That's my point. Okay, thank you. Anyone else? One more of the gents on the gents side. Gents tend to be a little more reserved about sharing, but anything? Keshav Maharaj, anything you want to? Here comes the microphone.
Is who you met, yeah. So we didn't have our partners from yesterday,
right.
So we were discussing, and we just discussed Valentino Prabhu's story.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get to the point of dramatizing it, but I did have an idea, so maybe I'll just share it.
Sure.
And then we can. So basically, in brief, it's a very beautiful story, but he was a blues singer.
Oh.
And then through a concert, he met the devotee, Vrindavan Purandara Prabhu, And then there was a series of different things. He also talked about his journey of illness, and yeah, the journey of then how he became a devotee. So I was just thinking that the blues was immediately the thing that we talked about, blues music. And it was interesting after this morning's song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Oh, that's a kind of Bengali blues.
Bengali blues, yeah. So we were talking about the blues and how it's usually a genre of music which kind of is all about lamentation about the material world.
Yeah.
So I was thinking like that would definitely be a kind of device through which to tell his story.
Yeah.
Through the blues music and talking about the journey of suffering and different things, and but we didn't get. Do you want to add something to that?
So thank you, Mary. That was perfect. That was way better than I would have said anything. All I was going to add was I think that there was going to be a little bit of a happy ending, obviously, in terms of maybe going for kind of extending on with like gospel or something, like, you know, so kind of a more
from blues
cheery,
to gospel music.
Exactly. So
hallelujah.
Exactly. Hare Krishna.
Huh?
The music is the same.
Okay, it's changing the lyrics. Okay. yeah. Nice, thank you. Yes, very nice ideas, and we all have rich experience, and one thing that drama can do is unwrap and sharpen those experiences. In effect, that's also what drama is about. It's the audience all have their life experience, and the drama on the stage is getting reflected in their hearts in a way which is resonating with their own experience in such a way. Well, the term resonance is good. What does resonate mean? It means if I have a guitar, for example, and I pluck a string, the string without the body of the guitar, you won't hear it. But with the body of the guitar, that sound resonates through and comes out amplified. So drama can amplify. It can amplify experience, feelings, emotions, and so on. So it can be very, very powerful. Can we turn this projector? I see it looks like it's on, but it's not showing what I have here. So I'm not sure what to do. Oh, maybe that's all. No? We had it up before. So... Oh. There we go. Thank you. I thought now that we look at a passage from the Bhagavatam. This will be familiar for many of you, perhaps for some of you not so. This is from the 4th canto, chapter 3. This is a conversation between Sati and Shiva. Lord Shiva has had a kind of confrontation before this with his father-in-law, whose name is Daksha. Prajapati Daksha, yes. And it was quite an unfortunate encounter. And now, after all of that, Sati, there's going to be another event that the father-in-law is going to have another yajna, And Sati, the daughter, wants to attend, wants to go, and Shiva, they're discussing, and Shiva says, I don't think that's a good idea. So let's read this. I'll read rather quickly, and you can also see it here. It starts with text 8. Sati says, My dear Lord Shiva, your father-in-law is now executing great sacrifices, and all the demigods have been invited by him. Who have been invited are going there. If you desire, we may also go. I think that all my sisters must have gone to this great sacrificial ceremony with their husbands, just to see their relatives. I also desire to decorate myself with the ornaments given to me by my father, and go there with you to participate in that assembly. My sisters, my mother's sisters, and their husbands and other affectionate relatives must be assembled there. So, if I go, I shall be able to see them, and I shall be able to see the flapping flags and the performance of the sacrifice by the great sages. For these reasons, my dear husband, I am very much anxious to go. And she continues, this manifested cosmos is a wonderful creation of the interaction of the three material modes, or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. This truth is fully known to you, yet I am but a poor woman, and as you know, I am not conversant with the truth. Therefore, I wish to see my birthplace once more. O never-born, O blue-throated one, not only my relatives, but also other women, dressed in nice clothes and decorated with ornaments, are going there with their husbands and friends. Just see how the flocks of white airplanes have made the entire sky very beautiful. O best of the demigods, how can the body of a daughter remain undisturbed when she hears that some festive event is taking place in her father's house? Even though you may be considering that I have not been invited, there is no harm if one goes to the house of one's friend, husband, spiritual master, or father without invitation. O immortal Shiva, please be kind toward me and fulfill my desire. You have accepted me as half of your body. Therefore, please show kindness toward me and accept my request. And then Maitreya, the great sage, says, Lord Shiva, the deliverer of the hill Kailasa, having thus been addressed by his dear wife, replied smilingly, although at the same time he remembered the malicious, heart-piercing speeches delivered by Daksha before the guardians of the universal affairs. The great Lord replied, My dear beautiful wife, you have said that one may go to a friend's house without being invited. And this is true, provided such a friend does not find fault with the guest because of bodily identification and therefore become angry toward him. Although the 6 qualities, education, austerity, wealth, beauty, youth, and heritage, are for the highly elevated. One who is proud of possessing them becomes blind, and thus he loses his good sense and cannot appreciate the glories of great personalities. One should not go to anyone's house, even at the consideration of his being a relative or a friend, when the man is disturbed in his mind and looks upon the guest with raised eyebrows and angry eyes. He continues, if one is hurt by the arrows of an enemy, one is not as aggrieved as when cut by the unkind words of a relative, for such grief continues to rend one's heart day and night. My dear white-complexioned wife, it is clear that of the many daughters of Daksha, you are the pet. Yet you will not be honored at his house because of your being my wife. Rather, you will be sorry that you are connected with me. One who is conducted by false ego and thus always distressed, both mentally and sensually, cannot tolerate the opulence of self-realized persons. Being unable to rise to the standard of self-realization, he envies such persons, as much as demons envy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear young wife, certainly friends and relatives offer mutual greetings by standing up, welcoming one another, and offering obeisance. But those who are elevated to the transcendental platform, being intelligent, offer such respects to the Supersoul who is sitting within the body, not to the person who identifies with the body. I'm always engaged in offering obeisance to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. Therefore, you should not see your father, although he is the giver of your body, because he and his followers are envious of me. Because of his envy, O most worshipful one, he has insulted me with cruel words, although I am innocent. If, in spite of this instruction, you decide to go, neglecting my words, the future will not be good for you. You are most respectable, and when you are insulted by your relative, this insult will immediately be equal to death. Okay, that's the Bhagavatam. Now, what I want to propose is that we reflect on how we might embellish, or how we might represent this, reenact this scene on a stage. And what I want to suggest is that we think about what is the focus that we want. And the focus that I would suggest is the conflict, the inner conflict that Sati must be feeling. On the one side, she wants to follow her husband's advice to not go, because she understands he is her well-wisher. On the other side, she feels that the honor of her husband has been compromised, and she feels the need to set it right. Now that aspect is not expressed in this part. It comes out in the next chapter when she decides she's not going to listen to her husband. She goes to the yagya, to her family, and as most of you know, quite some intense conclusion comes there. So what I want to suggest, I think we can do it again in small groups. It doesn't have to be just twos. It could be threes or fours if you like. If it helps you, many of you have phones to be reminded of the full text, or you can look at the portion that's here, or you can ask for to be brought back to verse number 8, however you want to do. Can we come up with some ideas of how we might represent this scene? One suggestion is you could modernize it. So it's Shiva and Sati, but it's 21st century Switzerland. It's a 21st century family where relations might not be expressed the way they are here in this rather formal way. Could it be, I'm just trying to sort of prompt you to have other ideas. Could it be made enriched by having Sati, after she speaks, after all of this, before she makes her decision, she goes back in her room where she has two servants that she speaks with. And one of her servants says, "Don't listen to your husband." And the other servant says, "You have to listen to your husband." How would that conversation go? Okay, shall we try this? Again, just for a few minutes. Oh, time goes so quickly. Shall we do this? What do you think? What I'm trying to get you to do is to stir up the mind. I want to make you all into playwrights. That's what I'm trying to do, if you didn't figure this out yet. So, yes. It's about dialogue, right? One person says one thing and somebody else responds to that. How do they respond? How does it go back and forth, and how does it develop? It's a bit of a challenge. I see you're looking at me like, are you serious? So let's see what happens. Feel free to make notes about this also. If one of you is inclined to make notes, make notes. Gauranga, Nityananda, Gauranga, Nityananda. Again, I see everyone quite lively, especially the ladies. And I think I know why. We had a rather large group here of about 6 of you. Would you like to act out what you were discussing, or tell us something from what you had in mind? What came up?
I mean, we can, but it's not so. We make a
21st century Switzerland today. Okay. Bollywood. Oh yeah.
Is that correct? There was a lot of drama. We were using technology, so TikToks and Reels, and yeah, we were trying to interpret it in today's. And then the way that she's conflicted, we would have it reflected nowadays, where you'd have the best friends and discussion about how that would go as well. So yeah, it was a bit more playful, but a reflection on today's society, I suppose.
Right, very good. Did you get any of the specifics of the dialogue? Who's going to say what? Uh-oh. Did I ask the wrong question?
So,
go ahead.
like, one part would be that she just went because she's an independent woman and she doesn't need her husband to ask for. And then she was there, and then she posted it on TikTok and everywhere, just for close friends, and she took him out so he cannot see it. And then he was talking with a friend, and they were like, the friend was telling him, "Did you see what your wife did?"
Uh-oh.
And then he showed to him, and then the whole drama came up, and he went home and they had a huge fight.
Oh.
So, yeah, that's basically like one part of it.
That's really 21st century melodramatic Bollywood style.
They would even do a dance afterwards.
Of course, there has to be a dance. If there's no dance, it's not Bollywood, right? Thank you. Yes, Mataji.
We also thought that we would make a dance drama out of it.
A dance drama?
Yes, and in the first part, we would, in the dance would be displayed the emotions of Sachi and how she dreams about how the festivity would be with all the colors and the
flags,
and so on, and everything like this. And also when Shiva talks, it would be enacted with this more conflict situation. And in the end, there would be Sati's. She's really in an inner conflict, and that also would be displayed with 2 dancers, maybe one blue and one red, one more passionate and the other more
tamasic.
No, not tamasic.
Not tamasic.
No, more leveled, more.
Okay.
Yeah, and yes, they would maybe like fight about a piece of sari or something like this, and to display how she is torn
how she's
apart,
torn
actually.
within. Yeah.
Within.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. So we also discussed about our dance form, Maharaj, but just to take a step back, thanks for organizing this workshop. In India, we used to call it as Natya Shastra. It's one of the shastras that people give a lot of importance to.
Yes.
And there's this one dance form down south called Bharatanatyam. Since it's about Shiva and Sati, we thought we'll go with that dance form. In terms of embellishment, probably I'll come to it in the last part though. So what we thought was to have it more as a song with musical instruments, and that's how this dance form works out to be. Have Shiva and Sati, play along. Shiva is known for those dance forms, so to have it all along. And emote it, basically, not have any dialogue at all, but emote all of these scenes, because there is frustration, there is angry and everything. So there's so much emotions going around in the scene.
Yes, and it can all be expressed physically, so to say, with bodily motions.
Yeah, and towards the end, what we thought, instead of Sati going to the servant for opinion, we thought we will show two contrasting characters, angel and a demon sort, play around with lighting and again background music and what have you, to just show the difference and of course show what suggestion or what decision Sati made. And we all know what decision Sati made, but we have kept it to the core. We have not brought in the modernization. But that's a question also, Maharaj, that I have after listening to you for the last 2 sessions, right? When you said classical dramas, it had its core tenets. And especially when you talk about scriptures like Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, there's a core element to it. Modernization, of course, engages audience. Again, I want to get your perspective on it. Humor is good. But at the same time, when we convey it to the current generation, right, we should make sure the core element doesn't get disturbed. So what are your thoughts on it, and how Prabhupada viewed drama as an element, Maharaj?
That's a bigger topic. Thank you. Very briefly, I might mention I just heard this from Hari Parshad Prabhu was giving a talk on the Vidagdha Madhava, and he says, he explained that in the Nataka Chandrika of Srila Rupa Goswami, which is a short manual on drama principles based on Bharatanatyam and the later works, he mentions there are 3 types of drama in terms of one is called Khyata, which means it's based quite strictly on Shastra. One, I think, is called Klipta, from Kalpana, which means it's imaginary. It's done by the poets, essentially. And there's Mishra, which is a mixture of the 2. So the perhaps most famous of all dramas of all Indian time, at least, is the Abhigana Shakuntala of Kalidas. And this is based on a story that's briefly given in the Mahabharata. But Kalidas does some of his own, he changes the story. But he changes the story with a purpose. And the purpose is to intensify, to bring out the proper rasa that he wants to bring out. And so my understanding would be an example of Mishra, the Mishra type of kavya. The Nataka, which is one of 10 types of Rupaka, I'm a total beginner in all of this, but I'm learning. Rupaka means it's Drishya Kavya, which means it's performed for an audience, as opposed to Shrutya Kavya, which is simply heard. So Drishya is what's performed. There are 10 types, the first of which is Nataka. And Nataka has 10 acts, And there's so many other prescriptions, requirements for a nataka. And one of the requirements is that it must be khyata, it must be following Shastra. Hari Parshad Prabhu pointed out the Vidagdha Madhava and I presume also the Lalita Madhava are they are natakas, and therefore they're following Shastra. And the question came up, but where are all these details coming from which are described by Rupa Goswami in his drama? And Hari Parshad Prabhu said, it's from the Padma Purana, and then he named the exact place in the Padma Purana where all of the details are. He said it's just coming from there. But then the question may come, in this particular case, why did it take Rupa Goswami 17 years to write his drama? Because what's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a conversation, and we may discuss that. There's a conversation with Lord Chaitanya, with Rupa Goswami about the writing of this drama, and he's working on it. And when did that happen? It happened in the year 1515. It's apparently known that the drama was finally completed in 1532, 17 years later. What took him so long? If it was all in the text. So Hari Parshad Prabhu explains he needed that much time to meditate on the content, because he was meditating. He said every day he was meditating on it. And he needed to also be selective. He needed to draw out from the Shastra what he could then amplify with his poetry. And of course his poetry is, perfect Sanskrit poetry in various meters, and that's very much of concern for him, to draw out the rasa. Those are a few thoughts to your point. Srila Prabhupada was very concerned that devotees perform devotional drama. That was one of the big points. He gave a description of a drama to Hayagriva. There's an interesting recording. Hayagriva was completely clueless about, this was before Prabhupada had translated Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Prabhupada wants him to write a drama about Lord Chaitanya, and he's explaining to him, Act 1 will be like this, Act 2 will be like this, Act 3 will be like this. And I think I was just reading, it's in Act 3 that he's describing Krishna and Radha, and the Ras Leela is happening in Goloka, and this is setting the scene for Krishna to become resolved to appear as Lord Chaitanya. So Hayagriva, he gets confused at one point. So you said that Radharani does she appear in this act? You can imagine he's scratching his head, and Prabhupada's very patiently explaining. But he's just giving a sketch, and this is a point I want to make. He's giving a sketch, and he wants then Hayagriva to fill it out. So he's giving him a lot of space for creativity. Just as a painter, an artist, Prabhupada had artists do so many paintings, based on a text, and many times they would check with Prabhupada for details, but still, so much of it was left up to the artist to create the actual painting. So is that all right? Well, we're kind of over time now, and I can hear the stomachs growling, so thank you all very much, and I hope to see you again tomorrow at this time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande.